going, you guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Maddison Hill, and yes, it's time for another Pop Off with Maddison. For today's Pop Off, I'm going to be filling you guys in on everything you need to know in regards to Travis Scott and what went down at his Astroworld Festival in Houston this past weekend. For those of you who don't know, 8 people sadly lost their lives at Astroworld Festival this past weekend, and quote, scores were injured. That is the word that is being used by Houston authorities. Since the event, both Travis Scott and Kylie Jenner, because she was in attendance, have both spoken out and released statements, and both of their statements were not well received by everyone at all. In addition to that, a lawsuit has been filed against Travis Scott and Live Nation, and then there's an additional lawsuit that has been filed against Travis Scott, Live Nation, and Drake because he was also there and he performed with Travis Scott. It's a lot, and it's also a very sad situation, but it's also a major story, and I definitely want you guys to be filled in on it and know what's going on. And also, you should know that the investigation into the event is technically still ongoing, so this video is just going to fill you guys in on what we know so far. But before I get into that, in an attempt to try to lighten things up a little bit at the beginning of this video, I do want to make sure I check in with you guys and see how the House of Hill is doing. You know, this is what we do with every first video of the week. So how are you guys? How was your weekend? Let me know down below. I personally had a great weekend. I helped my mom around our house in Kansas City. As you can see, I'm here right now. I'm actually going to be back in LA later this week. I also watched the Chiefs game with some of my very best friends, which is always a fun time. And personally, I'm trying really hard to start this week off on not a stressed and anxious note. I'm trying really hard to go into this week with a positive mentality. And if you have been struggling a little bit, I hope that we can do this together. We can help each other because my stress and anxiety has really been getting to me lately. But that's okay. We're gonna work on getting it together. And enough about me, because I know you straight to the T people are probably so over this long intro. So make sure you help out your fellow straight to the T, straight to the information people down there in the comments and put this time code. And we're not gonna waste any more time and get straight to unwrapping these Travis Scott and Astroworld facts. All right, so this past weekend, Travis Scott was said to have his Astroworld Festival in his hometown of Houston at NRG Park. However, Travis Scott had to cut his Astroworld Festival short. He ended up having to cancel Saturday shows after Friday night's shows ended in tragedy. According to multiple reports, 8 people died at Travis Scott's Astroworld Festival on Friday, and quote, scores were injured. That is the word that is continuously being used in press conferences by authorities. Those who passed away ranged in age from 14 to 27, which is just absolutely sickening to me. According to the Houston fire chief, there were 50,000 people in attendance at Travis Scott's concert on Friday, and at about 9 to 9:15, pretty much right when Travis Scott hit the stage, the fire chief said the crowd began to compress towards the front of the stage, and quote, that caused some panic and it started to cause some injuries. People began to fall out, becoming unconscious, and it created additional panic. Now, by 9:38, Travis Scott's concert was considered a quote, mass casualty event, and police and firefighters were obviously dispatched to the event in order to help. What's interesting though is that in all of this chaos, Travis Scott never stopped playing. In fact, according to the Houston Chronicle, Travis continued to perform until about 10:15 p.m., more than 30 minutes after officials responded to the mass casualty event. Now, I'm sure as you all have seen by now, there have been several people posting to social media about their experience at Astroworld. People have been talking about what was happening in the crowd, saying that people were asking for help and shouting for help and that no one was helping them. The crowd was reportedly yelling at Travis Scott to stop performing and stop the show, and at one point, 2 people even somehow climbed onto the rafter where a cameraman was filming for Apple Music. They got his attention. They were screaming, stop, someone is hurt, people are dying, and still the show went on. In addition to Travis Scott continuing his show, his on and off again girlfriend Kylie Jenner continued to post on her Instagram story as well. However, when things really started to get bad, multiple reports state that Kylie and her sister Kendall, because she was there as well, were actually escorted out of the VIP area to safety. Regardless, you get it. It was an incredibly scary situation for the 50,000 people that were in attendance, and it was an absolutely tragic incident for those who lost their lives and for those who were injured. Now, the following day, Travis Scott did release a statement on Twitter saying, I am absolutely devastated by what took place last night. My prayers go out to the families and all of those impacted by what happened at Astroworld Festival. Travis Scott went on to say that Houston PD has my total support as they continue to look into the tragic loss of life. And then he ended his statement saying that he will work with the Houston community to make sure those families get the help they need. And he also thanked Houston Fire, police, and NRG Park for all that they did. Now, after Travis Scott posted his statement to social media, he started to get a lot lot of backlash and a lot of criticism for not stopping his performance when all of this was going on. So now that brings me to what Kylie Jenner had to say in her statement over on Instagram. She started her statement saying, "Travis and I are broken and devastated. My thoughts and prayers are with all of those who lost their lives, were injured, or affected in any way by yesterday's events. And also for Travis, who I know cares deeply for his fans and the Houston community." She then went on to address the criticism that both her and Travis were receiving for just continuing on as normal when all this was happening, saying, quote, "I want to make it clear we weren't aware of any fatalities until the news came out after the show, and in no world would have continued filming or performing. I'm sending my deepest condolences to all the families during this difficult time, and will be praying for the healing of everyone who has been impacted." Now, in addition to posting that statement on social media, Travis Scott also took to his Instagram stories in a series of black and white videos. He once again reiterated that he is sending his thoughts and prayers to all of those lost, and that he's working on identifying the families in order to help them. He also said, quote, "My fans really mean the world to me, and I always just want to leave them with a positive experience. And anytime I can make out anything that's going on, stop the show and help them get the help they need. I just could never imagine the severity of the situation." Now, since these statements, Travis Scott has been hit with multiple lawsuits along with Live Nation. That's the company that helped him put on the show. In addition to that, Drake was also named in one of the lawsuits already because he came out and performed his song with Travis Scott towards the end of his set. These lawsuits accuse Travis, Drake, and Live Nation of inciting the crowd that resulted in injuries and emotional distress. There's also this new report from the New York Times that says the Houston police chief did try to warn Travis about the energy of the crowd prior to the show on Friday night. The police chief reportedly attributed the quote, "energy" to the pandemic, high ticket prices, and the event itself had a history of crowds that were difficult to control, which is absolutely true. Travis Scott definitely has a history of getting the crowd really riled up at his shows. And in fact, TMZ even pointed out that a promo that was used for this Astroworld Festival in Houston actually included news footage and fan footage from a previous Astroworld Festival where Travis Scott was actually cited for inciting a riot. This Astroworld Festival that I'm referring to and where this footage is from 2019. Regardless, you get the picture. There's definitely a pattern here. It's absolutely bad. And obviously, I have some thoughts about this. And because this is a serious topic, we have had lives lost. There are people injured. There are families grieving, and just, it absolutely kills me. I obviously will not be popping any shams today. Instead, we are just going to send our prayers, our thoughts, our positive vibes, whatever you believe in. Please send that to the victims of those who were affected from the Astroworld Festival, those who have been injured, the city of Houston, the first responders, just to everyone involved. You guys definitely send them your love. And now let's just go ahead and get to this pop off. Okay, so here's the thing. I think Travis Scott's whole act of not knowing that anything was happening is complete BS. I mean, there is literally video footage, and I'm not going to show it because honestly, it's a little triggering, it's a little traumatizing, and I just don't really feel comfortable showing somebody getting CPR on my YouTube channel. But there is video footage of somebody literally getting CPR, and the camera pans up, and Travis Scott is up there doing the robot and continuing his performance. I mean, you just literally cannot make this up. The fact that people were climbing on the cameraman's rafters and saying, "Stop what's going on. People are dying," trying to get Travis Scott's attention, getting personnel's attention, getting security's attention, and still the show continued to go on. I mean, it is just absolutely gut-wrenching and mind-boggling. You know, according to the police chief and the fire chief, first responders were starting to get there around 9:38. There were literally ambulances in the crowd. If you look at Kylie Jenner's Instagram story, she even posted an Instagram story where you can see an ambulance trying to get in and help people. So I'm just a little confused as to how Travis Scott couldn't tell that anything was going on and continued playing until 10:15 p.m. And you know, I'm sure it is hectic up on stage. I'm sure it is hard to hear. I'm sure it is hard to see, but there have been countless other artists that people have been finding from past concerts that when they see something going on in the audience, they address it. They either get that person help or they get whoever is starting the trouble kicked out. And I totally understand that there were a ton of people there. There were people who came in that didn't even buy tickets. People rushed in. I understand it was chaos, but I just still feel like Travis Scott could have done more. And yes, I'm also aware that the Houston police chief said that they were actually scared to have him stop performing because they were scared that it would incite a riot. I totally, completely understand that, but I don't know what it is. Maybe I've just seen too many TikToks and too much footage from that night, but I just feel like Travis Scott could have done more. That might be unfair of me to say, that might be unfair of me to think. I just still do not completely understand how you could say you did not see anything going on. And you know what? On top of that, I think I would have bought his whole I didn't know anything was going on, I couldn't see anything act if he hadn't previously been cited for inciting a riot at one of his other Astroworld Festival shows. I also would maybe have a little more sympathy for him if we didn't know that the Houston police chief went to him prior to the show and said, hey, I don't think this is a good idea. The energy of the crowd is off. I don't think this is gonna end well. I don't know. Travis's actions, you guys, are just not sitting well with me. And I'm sorry if you disagree with me. That's just how I feel. And yes, I know that he's refunding everyone for their tickets. I know that he's working with Houston police and Houston fire to try to figure out what happened and come to some resolution. I know he's most likely 9 times out of 10 going to financially help the families of those who passed away. But in my opinion, it's a little too late. Those people needed the help when the incident was happening. Those people needed help during the concert. Those people needed Travis Scott to stop and say, everyone calm the F down. This is going too far. I feel like that's really when people needed help as opposed to now just being given money. And as far as Kylie Jenner is concerned, of course she's going to stick by Travis Scott. But for her to also say that she really didn't know what was going on, she literally, like I said, had an Instagram story with an ambulance in it. She was escorted away because of safety concerns. I understand that they didn't know that there were casualties and that there were fatalities, but I don't know. I just feel like as soon as I knew that there were safety concerns, I personally probably would have deleted everything from my Instagram story because it was no longer a positive event. And it's crazy to me that she didn't do so. I actually saw Kylie Jenner's Instagram stories before I saw the headlines of what went down at Astroworld Festival, and I was completely shocked that she didn't delete those Instagram stories. I was shocked she left them up. Regardless, you might not see it as a big deal, but I personally feel like that is incredibly bad optics to have those Instagram stories posted again, making it seem like it was fun, making it seem like everything was honky-dory when it absolutely was not. Regardless though of Kylie Jenner, Travis Scott, the real tragedy is the fact that 8 people lost their lives and that countless people were injured and are still injured. Some are still in the hospital. And on top of that, I'm sure thousands of people are going to have major PTSD from this event. I mean, regardless of fault, regardless of who could have done more, it is just a absolutely horrible situation. And I know I gave Travis Scott kind of a hard time during this video, but we also have to recognize that this is probably going to stick with him the rest of his life as well. And honestly, I can't even imagine. All right, you guys, one more time, I just want to say that I'm sending all of my thoughts and prayers to all of those affected in Houston by the Astroworld Festival. You guys, I want to hear your thoughts and feels down below. Also, don't forget to send all of those people your thoughts, prayers, positive vibes, whatever you believe in. Make sure you're sending those to those people who were affected. While you're at it, you guys know what else to do for this video. You can also follow me over on Instagram and TikTok. You guys can also come back here for my YouTube shorts. You can also check out my merch store at houseofhill.com. And on that note, I'll see you guys next time.